Hi everyone! In this video, we'll try to find the answer to the question, what is the difference between verification and validation? Let's begin. And we begin with an explanation given by ISTQB. If you don't know what is ISTQB, we'll provide a link to the website in the materials for the lecture. You can pause the video and get familiar with the definitions. And you can see that those are very similar. The difference is just in a couple of words. In fact, those are two very different processes. Let us provide a couple of words in human language to highlight the differences. The verification answers the question, have we built the system correctly? Checking if the system meets the requirements, user stories, and other specifications. The validation answers the question, have we built the right system? Checking if the system meets user and stakeholder needs and expectations. You can pause the video and read the definition again, but it is best to explain it with the help of an example. Let's start with verification. According to the definition, the verification is checking if the system meets the requirements, user stories, or other specifications. It means that we need a requirement. In our case, it is a simple user story about user registration on the website. Users need to provide their first name and the last name, email and password to be able to register successfully. Let's say the coding phase is also completed. The registration form is ready for testing. This is a typical situation in many projects where a tester is involved late in the software development process. So it's time to verify the registration form. What will this process look like? This is what testers do almost every day. First of all, we familiarize ourselves with the requirements and write tests based on them. In our case, we have only one simple requirement, so we write only one simple test case. For visibility of the verification process, we can add the traceability matrix. It consists of one requirement and one test case. But it is in our simplified example, you need to understand that we simplify a lot of things. On the real project, you have tons and tons of requirements, and you need to write thousands of test cases. To prove that all requirements are tested, we need a traceability matrix. Otherwise, we can miss important things. Let's go back to our simple example. We have requirements, test cases, traceability matrix, and the form. It is time to run the test case and verify if the user can register with valid information. We enter first name, last name, email, and password, and click the registration button. And the confirmation screen is displayed. Everything is fine. It looks like everything is fine, so the real users can try to register on their site. But when the end users try to register, a lot of them are not happy. If you work as a software tester, you will often encounter this situation. When you test, everything looks simple and logical. It seems to you that you have done your job well. But when the real users start using the feature, they find such bugs or problems that you missed. At that time, it seems to you that everything is so obvious that you don't understand how you could miss that. And the reason why you miss such simple bugs is that you perform only the verification activities. We will tell you why this user is angry in a minute. Let's get familiar with validation first. According to the definition, we need to check if the system meets user and stakeholder needs and expectations. We have the same user story and the same registration form. And we also use a simple notepad. The difference is that we don't start with test cases. We start with questions. Before we start testing, we need to understand what kind of system we built. Who are the users of the system? How they will use those? What kind of existing problems system resolve? How it is different from the systems which are already on the market? And how the company plans to earn money. You should have answers to these questions to understand the context of testing. This will help to write proper test cases. The person you should ask these questions to is the product owner. Sometimes you get a comprehensive logical answer, sometimes you don't. In our case, we want to find out. If we make a social network website, then how important is it that people enter exactly their first name and last name? Different cultures have different rules about names. The product owner agrees that it is a valid point and proposes a solution. As a result of our conversation, the requirements change. Instead of 2 fields for the name, we will have 1. Accordingly, the registration form created by the developers is changed as well. Now it's time for the verification process. As you can see, verification and validation are complementary processes. That's why we write tests. Instead of 1 test, we write several tests with different usernames. We take all the same steps as before. We write test cases, build the traceability matrix, run test cases, and check the results. The verification process should happen as well. But the difference at the end user is huge. All users can register on the site without any problems. And we want to emphasize one more time. Verification and validation are complementary processes, and both are equally important. That time when we only did the verification, the users couldn't enter their full names, and even if it did not block the registration, it is important to fully identify yourself on a social network website. You can pause the video to read the definition again, and check if you now see the difference between these processes. The questions, have we built the system correctly? Have we built the right system? Sounds very similar, but in fact, they mean 2 very different things. And that is our answer to the question, what is the difference between verification and validation?